Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age, a hero or sage came to our aid. Mi yimler guvrot Yisrael otami yimne hen bechodor yakum hagibor goel ha'am. So we've reached our season of heroes. The Hebrew word for hero is gibor, a word common in the Bible and a word that remains present in modern Hebrew today as well. The word hero comes from the same root in Hebrew as the word strength, givurah. It's a word that is commonly associated with masculinity and often appears in the Torah with connection to war or battle. One of the most famous places this occurs is in the book of Samuel, or the book of 2 Samuel, when David sings a poetic elegy to Jonathan after he is killed in battle. Ech naflu giburim. How our heroes have fallen. In the thick of battle, Jonathan slain on your heights. In fact, the full name of our Holocaust Memorial Day each spring is Yom HaShoah. Each spring is Yom HaShoah, but the full name is actually Yom HaZikaron LaShoah VeLaGivurah. Holocaust and Heroism Day, a day where we don't just remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust, but also the heroism and the Jewish resistance to the Nazis. And while there are certainly heroes in many Jewish stories, in every age, a hero came to our aid, from Abraham to Esther to Koufax. There is no holiday that most exemplifies Jewish heroism than that of Hanukkah. You know the story. The simple ragtag army, armed with just bows and arrows and a belief in God, fought a war to reconquer Jerusalem and to rededicate the Holy Temple. Hanukkah is also our most public holiday. While Passover and Sukkot are often celebrated in our homes, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in our synagogues, much of Hanukkah is intentionally public. And while I don't personally like the public town hall Hanukkah lightings, I do like that the Hanukkah story is our story that we share with others. We are supposed to put our menorahs in our windows. The shamus lights all the other candles without losing our own glow. Being a public Jew in this age is an act of heroism in and of itself. As you know, anti-Semitism is real and more prominent than ever in 2022. The Anti-Defamation League, which tracks anti-Semitism, has reported more anti-Jewish attacks last year than any year it has since it started tracking. The CEO of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, said, "I don't think it's an understatement to assert that we are reaching a point where this is becoming a national crisis. We have celebrities repeating anti-Semitic tropes. We have the former president breaking bread with bigots, including white supremacists. We have athletes normalizing Holocaust denialism. We know that this rise in anti-Semitism includes terrible acts of violence, including the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, the 2018 killing of 11 worshipers at a Shabbat service at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in our nation's history, in other horrors, in Poway, in Jersey City, and in Colleyville. I know some of us have experienced this rise of anti-Semitism, whether it's seeing a swastika drawn on a building at the Stanford campus or anti-Semitic literature dropped in neighborhoods throughout Palo Alto. Or maybe it's just feeling uncomfortable wearing a Magen David or a shirt with Hebrew letters. If you're like me, part of you is shocked that this happens here in America, here in California. And then there's another part of you that is shocked that I'm shocked. Of course, here in America, here in California. Our Beth Am teens were in Washington, D.C. last week, and some of them are here tonight, lobbying in the halls of Congress. One of the bills they lobbied in favor of was the Pray Safe Act, Senate Bill 2123, which would direct the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security to establish a federal clearinghouse through which faith-based organizations and houses of worship can access information on safety and security best practices, federal grant programs, and training opportunities. This is what our high school students said. Since the early days of Judaism, Jews have been plagued by anti-Semitism. This has only gotten worse in recent years. And while much of the anti-Semitism in Jewish history is relatively modern, with outbreaks of violence becoming more frequent over past years, Jewish texts also address the problem with its still relevant teachings that make it clear that human life is the ultimate priority. Time and time again, our students said, the Talmud specifically returns to the all-important issue of human life and emphasizes how important it is to protect and sustain for generations to come. By supporting the right of people to pray safely, the Pray Safe Act helps combat anti-Semitism and ensures that everyone continue to uphold the religious traditions that have been practiced for thousands of years safely and without fear of violence. However, as real and pernicious that anti-Semitism is, I continue to believe that we live in one of the safest, most open times in our history. The fact that the second gentleman, himself Jewish, hosted a roundtable at the White House a few weeks ago on the rise of anti-Semitism in the United States is both troubling and inspiring. As Ambassador Deborah Lipstadt, the U.S.'s special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, reminds us that even the alarming upsurge of anti-Semitism in Europe today does not come close to the anti-Semitism of pre-Holocaust Europe, with its state-sponsored persecution, and is accompanied by encouraging signs of Jewish rebirth. Surveys show that while the number of anti-Semitic assaults have increased significantly in the United States, the overall proportion of that population could be described as anti-Semitic remains essentially flat, and the vast majority of Americans do not possess negative impression of Jews. You remember as well as I do that after the shooting at Tree of Life, the outpouring of love and support from the general population for the Pittsburgh community was profound, and we experienced the same sense of sympathy and solidarity from across lines of differences right here in our sanctuary. One of our local Episcopal colleagues emailed me last week that he was adding to his community's liturgy of prayer that in a very directed way, that hate and anti-Semitism would not flourish and be defeated. I really admire Rabbi David Stern of Dallas, Texas. He wrote in a High Holiday sermon a few years ago, "The presence of anti-Semitism is painful and enduring. The challenge before us is to be vigilant but not fearful, because fear will distort who we are. We can't let anti-Semitism drive us into tribal isolation, drawing the wagons into a circle, hopelessly distrustful of the world around us. If the targeting experience as a minority leads us to fear and target other minorities, the anti-Semites have won. If the only message we give to our children is be Jewish because your ancestors suffered and died for the privilege, the anti-Semites have won. If the only Jewish cause that excites us is fighting against our persecutors, rather than fighting for our values, then the anti-Semites have won. If anti-Semitism breaks our hearts, but does not break them open to the suffering of others, then the anti-Semites have won. All of that brings us back to our Hanukkah story. In every age, a hero or a sage came to our aid. Ambassador Lipstadt, Rabbi Stern, that local Episcopal priest, our high school students, all heroes. And we too are those heroes. The Talmud teaches that one is not even supposed to light the Hanukkah candles in private and then move it to a door or window. Rather, one is supposed to kindle them in a public place. I encourage each of us to take the heroic act and light those candles proudly and publicly this Hanukkah. Light them in your window or on your patio. Invite a friend or neighbor to light them with you. Light them on Zoom with a non-Jewish friend. If you're celebrating Christmas this year, like we will be with Aaron's family, light them at that Christmas celebration. In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. How bright those little Hanukkah candles burn. Let us celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah together. We are here, continuing to fill our mission as a people to bring light to dark places. Shabbat Shalom and Hanukkah Sameach.